Hi everybody, and welcome back to Mrs. Ritchie Crochets. Today I'm going to show you how to make a koozie. So I have a koozie that was using different colored yarn, multicolored yarn, and it created this beautiful pattern. The koozie sits nice and flat. I've never had one fall over. This is to hold Red Bull and other slim cams like that. It is nice and flat. You can stuff it in your pocket, put it in your purse. Um, they just look really nice and they're cool. So I'm going to show you how to make that today. So we're going to start off with a magic ring. So first, the tail needs to be facing towards you. And then you're going to wrap it around your hook and twist. And then yarn over, pull down that loop. You want to be able to see the loop right there. And then you're just going to pull through and yarn and chain one to lock it in. Your magic circle should look like this with that little loop in there. Just leave it in there. It's okay. If you pull it out, it sometimes can come undone. We're going to do 6 single crochets. So into the hole, yarn up, yarn over. Sorry. Oh my gosh. Drop a loop. And then yarn over, pull through 2 loops. That's 1 single crochet. Insert into the hole, drop a loop, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through both. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, and lastly 6. And now the reason it's called a magic ring is because you can pull on it and it tightens. And then we're going to slip stitch. So what that means is I'm going to stick my hook into that first chain without yarning over, just into that first chain. And then I'm going to yarn over and pull through both. That is a slip stitch, and then I'll pull a little tighter. And there we have our first row. So now I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to do increases. I'm using a darker colored yarn so my stitches are a little bit harder to see. Let me turn my flashlight on. Okay, much better. Increases. So I chained 1. Increases are doing the same thing in that stitch twice. So we're going to do single crochets again. So sorry, let me back up. Insert my hook into that next chain, like your little V's that you see. Drop a loop, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through both of them. And then I just did 1 single crochet. And this is where I put it. You can see that hole right there. And my yarn is right above it. I'm going to go back into that same hole and do another single crochet. So that's called an increase because I just increased a stitch. I made a stitch, 1 stitch into 2 stitches. And then I'm going to do that again all the way around. So you should have 12 stitches. So I just did a single crochet, another increase, so 2 single crochets into every stitch. That's number 4. Sorry, number 6. It's a good thing I'm not a math teacher. 7, 8, and I'm going to finish this and then I'll show you what to do when you get to the end of this row. Okay, I did 12 stitches. Now I'm going to slip stitch into that first stitch that I did. So without yarning over, just inserting my hook into the chain, drawing up a loop, and pulling through both loops. And now I'm going to do an increase and then a single crochet and then an increase and then a single crochet. So 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets into that same stitch. The next stitch, I'm just going to put 1 single crochet. We're doing a pattern. Then I'm going to put 2 single crochets into the next stitch. So increase, single crochet, increase, single crochet, etc., etc. at the end of this, you should have 18 stitches total. So I just did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You should do 13 more. And then we're going to again slip stitch into this first stitch that we did. So 2 single crochets, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochets. I'll meet you when we're back. Okay, got to the end. I'm going to slip stitch into my first stitch. We just finished row 3. I'm going to show you how to count that. So we just need to find our middle circle, which is this one right here, and then ignore that, and then count 1, 2, 3. So our 3 little rows, I'm just counting the circles that it made. So now we're going to start number 4, and we're going to start off with the chain 1, and we're going to do the single crochet increase pattern again, because we want to keep this bottom nice and flat. We don't want it curling up on us. And what I mean by that is, like, we don't want it to form like a pizza pie. I mean, not a pizza pie, a pie, like a pie crust. Um, so we just chained, we did 1 single crochet. Now we're gonna do 2 single crochets into the same stitch, otherwise known as an increase. And we're gonna do that all the way around to ensure that our um, first part of our koozie stays nice and flat. Go all the way around with that. And I just want to show how you know you're getting to the end. This is my last stitch. There's one more stitch in between there, and that is my first stitch of the row. I can tell because it looks like a little bump was taken out of it. So one last single crochet into that stitch, and then a slip stitch into the next stitch. And then still very nice and flat. We're gonna do that one more time with the single crochet increases, and I did a chain 1 to start my row like always. So single crochet, got my first increase done. On to the next stitch, second increase, and just keep going all the way around the end. You can tell where I started, how it looks funky right there. It is still nice and flat, and I slip stitch to close it. Again, you can tell how many rows we've done. This is where we started, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's how many rows we've done. 5. Oh, sorry, there was 5. This top part is 5. We've done 5 rows, and now we're gonna check. I have my trusty dandy sparkling water. If you like sparkling water, a lot of people don't. They say it doesn't taste like anything, but I love sparkling water, and my favorite is Waterloo. I highly recommend it. It's really good for you. Carbonated water and natural flavors are its only 2 ingredients. No sugar, no calories. I'm not sponsored. So now we know we can start doing decreases and working on the side walls because we have made the width the way we need it to be, because it's out on both sides. So it is big enough for the bottom. So now we are going to chain 1 and do 1 decrease. So I just did a couple chains. You can put this decrease anywhere you want, since it's just going to be one of them. But a decrease is the opposite of an increase, obviously. So what we're going to do, it's not a very hard stitch. We're going to insert our hook, drop a loop. So we'll have 2 loops on our hook. Now, yarning over would just be a single crochet, but instead of that, we're going to insert our hook into the next loop, drop a loop again, 3 loops on our hook, and we're just going to pull through. And now we did the opposite of an increase. We took 2 stitches and made them 1. And then we're going to go into the next one and then continue on with our single crochets. And I'm going to show you in just a second what that did. Do you see how it's kind of like standing up on its own? We're going to do 1 more decrease over on the other side, and then we'll see what it looks like from there. Okay, so I am on the other side. I started here. I'm going to do 1 more decrease, insert my hook, draw up a loop, 2 loops on my hook, go into the next stitch, insert my hook, draw up a loop, 3 loops on my hook, take that first loop and pull through both of them and pull tight. And now I'm just going to continue on with my single crochets until I get to the end. Right, where's my end? Right here. Right here is my end. And then I'm going to slip stitch into that, and then we'll see what it looks like. Okay, I finished with that, and you can see it's starting to form nice around the bottom, starting to have that edge. So we are just going to continue on with our single crochets. Now we're going to start working on the height. So no more increases. We might do a couple decreases depending on how loose my stitches are. But single crochets all around until you get to the end, slip stitch back into the very beginning, and I'll meet you back when I'm finished with this row. I think those 2 little decreases were perfect, and I don't need this to be any tighter. Depending on your tension on your hooks and your yarn that you're using, you may want to put in some more. You don't want them to be too tight, but you also don't want it to be too loose. And so from now on, I'm doing single crochets all around. In a little bit, I will show you how to change colors, because you can make this, just one solid color. You can change colors. I'll show you how to switch colors for your rows. And then, or you can just use the multicolored yarn like this and have all different colors. Or you can just make it one solid color. So like I just said, this is a perfect circumference, and it fits my can perfectly, so I'm going to just do single crochets until I reach the height. You want it, don't ever make it all the way up to the top, because I promise you don't want the yarn in your mouth. Like, you don't want it to touch your mouth. Especially if it's wintertime and your lips are a little cracked, you definitely don't want it touching your lips. So it's always good to look at where the can curves in to about here, and then I always make it just a little bit lower than that. So from here to here, I'm just going to be doing single crochets. Okay, I'm going to show you how to switch colors. So I have this blue that I would like to add this dark green on top of. So I have a tail, and I just kept my hook where I was last at with this one. And you're going to start off with a slip knot, which is very similar to the magic ring, the same process actually, with the tail facing towards me. Going to twist my yarn over. I'm going to grab onto that tail. I'm going to hold a working yarn in my hand of this new color. I'm going to yarn over and pull through. Now I have a slip knot. It's a slip knot because it can get looser and it can get tighter. And then I'm just going to pull through, and then I'm going to tighten both of them, and I'm going to tie my tails together. So just a regular knot of tying my tails together. And now I'm ready to just continue on with this green. I'm going to go into the next, oh sorry, forgot to zoom it back out. I'm going to go into the next stitch and just do a regular single crochet. It'll look a little wonky at the very beginning, and then at the end we can make it look all nice and neat. So I'm just doing single crochets as I have been this whole time to get that length up. And then whenever I finish this row, I'll show you what I did. And this is what it looks like right now. I need to do one more stitch right here in the middle. Sometimes it's harder to get your hook in there. And then I don't want to leave like a gap there. So I'm going to slip stitch and close in that green color. And if you don't like the way that looks, you could slip stitch into the bottom and cover up that piece right there. It's all on what you want to do. You can always add an extra stitch, but that's how to change colors. It made a nice green pop. And I finished the original one. I like to turn mine inside out. So this is with it being how I made it, didn't turn it inside out. This was the tail I started with. And I'm going to show you how to sew the ends in, but I am going to be lazy and I know I'll never turn this inside out and you'll never know the difference. I'm going to tie a knot down here so that my magic ring can't come undone because they can widen. I'm just going to tie it a couple of knots to make a very big knot so it can never loosen up again. Instead of, oh, what in the world? Instead of weaving this in and sewing it in. Okay, I'm just gonna leave that there. One more knot. At the bottom, preferably. Oh my gosh. I'm nervous, that's why I can't do this. This is not as difficult as I'm making it look. Yeah, helps when gravity's not working against you. There, perfect. A nice large knot that's not going to come undone. My yarn I had some ties. I had to tie some of it together. This was scrap yarn that I used to make this. Wasn't something new. So I just made sure that my ends were poking out on the inside. And to do that, I just took my hook and poked my ends in and made sure that was what it looked like. So I'm just going to inside this out. Looks much better on this side, and you cannot see that tail that I started with. And then I'm going to show you how to weave in the ends, and then I'll show you what it looks like in a can and give it a good once over. So I just threaded my needle, and I'm just going to go back and forth trying to go through those knots. To the right, and then we'll go over to the left into those knots. And this shouldn't ever come undone. But I typically would do this more than once, going back and forth just like that, making sure I get it into nice tight knots. But instead of going back and forth and doing it again, I'm just gonna go down into my project. Oh, I didn't grab that good enough. Come on, grab some good knots. You just want to make sure that you're kind of like in the middle, not on one side, not on the other side. And I think that's pretty good. I grabbed some knots on both sides. And then I'm just going to pull my tail down. And I'm just going to leave that thread in there. Call it good. This spot needs poked in a little bit. Hide some of that tail. You can take a lighter and burn your fuzzies like this one right here. I'll just take a lighter and burn it. And then I'll show you what it looks like with my trusty Waterloo. Looks beautiful. Very nice and even. Bottom's very flat. Top is nice and straight. And it sets perfectly. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed.